Hey, fitness fans, welcome back to the Future of Fitness podcast. I am your host, Eric Malzone, and this is episode number 31. So I have the absolute pleasure of talking to Cody Hunter. So Cody's story is a really, really good one. He was a professional rugby player from New Zealand. He actually had to stop because he got his face smashed in. Rugby players, man, different breed. Then he talked about his business of building and launching CrossFit in Korea. So he partnered with Reebok, and this thing just exploded, right? He was up to 450 members, which is just an astronomical amount of members, and how it actually grew too fast, and how that situation played out, and what that was like to be in a place where most of us think we want to be, but sometimes we find that we don't. After that, he pulled out. He decided that that wasn't for him anymore, and he faced an 18-month non-compete clause. During that time, he found some really valuable time to look at things, see what he wanted to do with his life, find out different ways to make money, and now he's growing his online coaching business, which is really exciting. He's very, very focused on his avatar, which is executives, and I think he's going to do great things in 2018. He's really kind of embodies what the future of fitness can look like and the remote revolution that we're facing now. And it's super exciting. And I hope you really enjoy it. Great all around guy. Without further ado, this is episode number 31 with Cody Hunter. Everybody, welcome back. Eric Malzone with the Future of Fitness podcast. And today I have a foreign guest. I have Cody Hunter of Hunter Lab Coaching. And man, welcome. I know we have a lot to talk about. Welcome on the show.
Thank you, Eric. Good to be here. Really appreciate it.
So I know a little bit about you. You and I have had a couple of conversations, but right now you are where as of this?
So right now I'm based in Seoul, South Korea, which I've actually been here now for about 12 years, but I've been only really working in the fitness industry in Korea for the last I would say 7 to 10 years. So Seoul, South Korea. It's a great place.
Cool. Yeah, I would love to check that place out. Tell the people who are listening how you got there. How was your journey there?
Yeah, it was a strange journey. I mean, I had no desire to go to Korea at all. And when I came here in 2005, I was a rugby player or a struggling rugby player with major injuries. I'd caved my face in 1 year where I had to get my whole skull reconstructed. And then the following year I had 4 knee surgeries, like to remove cartilage from everywhere and put it back together. By the end of that year, I got a job. I was working in a gym, and it was just wasn't really working out. So I just read the morning newspaper with a cup of coffee, and there was a small classifieds article that said, teach in Korea. So I thought, why not travel, make some money, rehab my injuries so I can come back a year later and be, fitter, stronger, and faster. And so that was what got me here. 2 weeks later, I was living in Korea in a small country, a small city, teaching English to kindergarten kids, to 5-year-old kids in second language. Yeah, it was madness.
Tell me, so what are the big differences culturally that you've noticed being in Korea? I mean, is there anything that sticks out?
At the start, 10 years ago, it was crazy. There was lots of stuff going on. Depends where you lived as well. I mean, I have a couple of tattoos. So if you had a tattoo showing, people would get really offended by it, think you're some kind of gangster. You'd get lots of staring at you. You'd get, but to be honest, my whole experience here has been extremely positive. And I mean, it sort of comes down to you get what you give. And I think a lot of people I know in this area that moves into Korea sort of give out this vibe of not enjoying themselves, or they want to leave, or they're trapped here, and they have this so they give out this really negative vibe where then if someone looks at you a strange way, you don't ignore it, you take it on as an attack, and then it's this big sort of, let's get going and let's argue and let's be, aggressive. So it's really funny. I mean, I've been here for 12 years and it's been nothing but positive. It's an extremely safe country. I mean, people probably have looked at me sideways, but I don't honestly see it. I don't care.
And you're telling me too that you've had an interesting experience. I mean, I consider myself, I was kind of an early adopter with CrossFit back in 2008. But you got to see really like really what that early adoption phase looks like in Korea, right? You're right there at the ground level. Tell people about how you got into that and what that experience was like launching it there, and your experience with Reebok and all that. It's a really cool story.
Man, I mean, it's such fond memories, right? Like we were extremely lucky. I was in a position where I had built up my own brand and my own business that was a small boot camp studio. And I built it up to have like 100 like really dedicated members that I could only fit 96 people in the day, and I'd have 4 on the waiting list every day waiting for me to call them to come into class. So I was like, it was a time where Korea had never seen anything like that. And then when Reebok jumped on board and CrossFit, Korea was one of their main targets to make it really thrive. So at the time when I was approached by Reebok to work with them and start opening some gyms, I had, so there were like maybe 2 other CrossFit boxes here. And no one really knew what it was, what was going on. So in 2012, February, I opened my first box here with full support from Reebok. They really looked after us, and they gave us, great sponsorship and helped us market. And we did all our events. We're actually the second Reebok CrossFit gym that opened. We were the second one in Korea. There were 2 gyms. One was a regular CrossFit box. The other one was opened by Reebok personally. The other one was my box that was sponsored by Reebok. And so it was the 2012 CrossFit Open that started about the week after we had opened. We had 0 CrossFit members because they were all boot campers from my old gym transferring over to this new facility that at the time was unbelievable how massive it was. It was actually quite small. Compared to US standards, this place was like the shower room maybe. But it was we could fit, 15 people on the floor in any class. And anyway, it went like wildfire. And at CrossFit Open, we invited the other boxes to compete at our box. And it was the most amazing time. At the exact same time, I had a baby. So my wife gave birth in I think it was like 12.2 maybe during that week. So I went from the hospital to the box, did the workout and got in the community, then went back to the hospital to spend time with my wife and son. But it just took off like wildfire. And within 3 months, I had 450 members in that gym. It was on fire. No one knew what CrossFit really was, but when they saw that community and that energy and that, it was unbelievable. And in hindsight, we grew way too fast, and we lost a stack of members as well. Like it just went up, and went bang, and we probably crushed out, a big burn rate in the first 3-4 months after that, just because we couldn't. It was just too many people. The capacity was overbooked. It was crazy. And it sort of tapered after that, but CrossFit after that grew from roughly 3 affiliates in Korea to, around 200 over the next 3 to 4 years. It just went boom and blew up, and it was all over TV, and variety shows were using it. It was massive.
Wow. So my question is, when, if I was on-ramping someone to a CrossFit gym, I'd always be asking questions like, what's your athletic background, things like that. What was that process like in Korea? Was it different? Were there more varied athletic backgrounds, or was there no athletic backgrounds at all? Or how did that client differ from other markets?
Yeah, great question. And that's a really interesting point, even compared to these days where CrossFit is definitely, there's more of a competitive feel to it. So that it's more of an athlete, almost a specific sport, right? Not really GPP anymore. It's like athletes are there to work out. But back then, it was housewives and businessmen. It was just regular people who had never worked out in their lives, some of them. So the Onramp was obviously an extremely important part of us. Because of Reebok, I got connections to Austin Malialo with Reebok CrossFit One, and he helped me set a lot of things up, helped me with my Onramp, helped me give me great advice. And he's one of my mentors. He's a superstar. And but so we started things very smoothly like that. We made sure we stuck with basic mechanics and fundamentals before we progressed on to things. Coming from a boot camp background that I had my level 1, but my first gym, I couldn't do CrossFit WODs because it was on a second floor of a bar, and I couldn't make noise, and it was like vibrating. It was crazy. So we did WODs, but I hadn't really worked on any major skill work in terms of barbell or even kettlebells, etc. So we started really simple, and our programming was super simple, and we just followed along and taught people up really well. But the thing was, it was very much low skill level, very low athletic level. And we had to take our time for sure. It was challenging, but very cool.
What other, was there any other, I guess, competition within in Korea? Like, was there, I'm looking at like nowadays, like, was there an Orange Theory type thing? Was there, other boot camps, or how was the competition in Korea when you're?
Yeah, it was nothing. Like the big Globo gym scene here was so massive for so many years, but they all used to go bankrupt. So they were extremely, the model is totally flawed and probably more so here than anywhere in the world. But you would turn up to a gym and the next day the doors would be locked and you'd just be, what? It's just shut down the very next day. We're talking like huge three floor complexes that you would never think would shut down. So that was actually really challenging. People didn't want to join the gyms because everyone had real fear about that happening here. It happens so often. The only competition was those rough Globo gym sort of places. I was the only person that did boot camps in the whole country. I started that sort of era here, the group fitness sort of boot camp thing. Les Mills started coming in. There's group classes and spin and that kind of stuff. But again, it wasn't taking off, and it still hasn't really taken off actually over here. But group fitness, and Koreans thought they didn't want to work out together. They didn't like to see each other sweat or not look good. Like, they're very conscious of their appearance. They always look great, right? It's amazing. It's like always very clean and tidy. I'm not even kidding. So our coaches had their game set out for us. We had to just sort of spruce ourselves up a little bit. But so in a group environment, watching each other sweat, they weren't really into that. But once they realized the community aspect of it, it just took off. They love it. They're such a community-based culture where, they love to welcome in new people. And after WODs, they'll head off to, whether it's at night, they'll go to bars and have fried chicken and drink beer together. They'll all wear the same clothing that they purchase because they want to be part of a group. That's why this was such a, I think, targeted place for Reebok to go to, because that's their kind of culture. Very, very locked into trends. But again, just like all trends and all crazes, it can go around in circles and then hit you back in the ass later. But early on, they were big time Reebok fans, big time CrossFit fans. It was really exciting time.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun, man. I mean, anytime you hear of growth, well, a couple things. When I hear 340 members, I think, holy shit, that's amazing. And then I also get really anxious.
Yeah, exactly. Me too.
It's that many people. That's crazy. So that's cool. That's interesting. So tell me, what's the transition been for you in the last few years? I know you started working on some different things. What are you up to now?
Yeah, so I built this company up, and I started off with 2 partners, and the further it grew, we grew from 1 box to 6 boxes throughout Korea extremely fast. So we had to bring in a lot of money. We had to bring in a lot of investment. A lot of new shareholders came into the company. I sort of just ended up taking the back seat and just slowly moving smaller and smaller ownership and power to what was going on. So, by the end of it, with 6 boxes, it was very much going in a corporate direction, and not just the company, because that was the growth of it, but the actual boxes turned out to be like corporate real estate, where the rents fees were $100,000 a month kind of thing, like getting upwards of $100,000 a month, maybe after the first 2 or 3 years. Where your membership base had to be 600 members, and that was kind of like your base. And anyway, it sort of grew to a point where the direction of what everyone wanted wasn't what I wanted. I just started not enjoying it, actually. So after 2 years as CEO, I stood down and sort of took a year back to go straight back to grassroots. So I was doing group coaching again. I was just sort of coming back into the boxes because no one knew who I was. I basically worked my way out of my business to be a point where I was just at that time, I thought that was wise. I shouldn't be the person. I need to make sure the business is thriving, not me. So I pulled myself back and really shut my brand down, which hurt me. I should, that was in hindsight not a good idea. But, so I left after 2 years. I spent a year finding my place. Do I want to stay here? Do I want to leave? And by the end of a year of just doing what I needed to do, I just jumped off the cliff and said, look, I'm out of here. I'm done, guys. I'm going to leave the company. Completely, and I'll take on this 18-month non-compete. You're going to issue me a strict issue of my non-compete. So but it was the best decision I ever made. Like, straight away the stress had disappeared. I was just free again, where I thought I could do whatever I wanted. So I spent 18 months unable to open a gym or work in a CrossFit box at all for that time. So that hurt. I had people lining up to open businesses with me. They're like, let's do this. I'm like, look, my hands are tied. So I went into selling equipment, selling protein, personal training outside, because I couldn't do it in the gym, but I was allowed to do it outside. what else did I do? Consulting for a couple of gyms. I did almost whatever I could to make money. I had to support my family. And then at one point I just got creative and I thought, look, this, grassroots level for corporations are becoming really popular where, so we can build some community and get some brand activation. So I made a proposal to Reebok to build actually it was called a Spartan training camp at that point. I was like, for Spartan race. I said, look, I'll coach people every weekend for free. You guys can contract me and I'll help build your brand and build a really tight following of loyal tribe members so they can, obviously do our races and do everything. So I was given the challenge. You've got a year to prove it to us that you can do it. But we don't want it to be Spartan race. We want it to be Reebok focused. So be more human is what we would like you to focus on. And so I said, fine. And they said, if you can get 20 people, man, we'll be really happy. And I was like, get out of the way, serious. So within 6 months, there was like the biggest turnout was 120 people showed up to a workout. And it was just people from all over the cities. It was amazing. So from there, they signed me up. And then we went and opened 5 different districts, we called them, throughout all of Korea, and had all these different coaches building these Be More Human projects, we call it. So that's been happening now for 2 years. And we're just coming to the end of it, actually. So that was kind of my back project. And then in the meantime, I was building my brand back up again, trying to figure out, like, what do I want to do? Do I want to open a gym? Do I want to go into more of a lifestyle coach area where I can have less clients but really give them good value? Do I want to head back to New Zealand? What do I want to do? So it just sort of had to work everything out. And it became sort of obvious that owning a gym in Korea was not going to be something I wanted to do. The rent fees were too high. The bubble had kind of burst, and it's a passion, and maybe I'll do it again sometime, somewhere. But for now, I was like, I'm enjoying this freedom, mobility, coaching executives from, CEOs and general managers from big companies based in Korea. We're starting to come to me through referrals to train outside in the mountains, any weather, versus their cushy like health clubs that they were members of that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to sign up for. So I was like, well, that was my hobby actually at the time. So with that, I made a goal of finishing all my work at 8:30 in the morning, all my coaching, and the rest of the day I could spend building the business. What am I going to do? What am I going to create? Anyway, it all worked out really well, and ended up becoming quite, building a really good base of clients that I coach now, and decided to go, the future is to go online as an online digital coach for, focusing on business executives, because I understand I was one for years. I've worked with them for years. I know their pain points. I know the travel schedules. I know the flights, the diet. Everything is in my wheelhouse to help them work on that. And the personal training industry is so messed up where if I'm coaching face-to-face, right, it's really not that much value. I mean, it's great, but it's not as great as it could be. And then when they leave, they go and travel to China for a weekend or even a month to the US. When they come back, they're a complete nightmare again. I've got to start them from scratch. They haven't worked out. Their diet's gone to shit. They're back to square one. So no one's winning here. I'm not being paid. They're not getting any results or any coaching at all. And we're just doing this really vicious kind of cycle of like ups and downs. And ultimately, no one's really happy in that situation. So the new models I've created is more of a hybrid model plus online model. And they're doing super well. And I hope to release 100% online from January next year, 2018. So I'm working heavy on that right now.
Oh, that's cool. That's a really cool. So you essentially just kind of ping-ponged your way into your niche, right?
That's right.
It's interesting working with business executives is it's such a great clientele, but it's also pretty challenging. I mean, I always know that, like, first of all, you're right. Like, their schedules are a mess. They're going to reschedule with you constantly if you're trying to do private training, and they always want to meet at like 4 a.m. Like, yeah. Man, yeah. Okay. That's going to be double. So how are you marketing yourself within that niche? Is it kind of happening organically? Are you building, how are you doing it?
Yeah. So, I was fumbling away because this whole building funnels and understanding how I can build like a really good following, et cetera, was not my wheelhouse at all. People assume I'm a really good marketer, but I'm not. I'm just very passionate about what I do. So it looks like I'm a great salesman, but I'm not selling you anything. I just love what I do, and I want you to be part of it. So, but going digital and going online is a totally different story, right? And how do I find people from all over the world to join me? So what I've done is I've actually joined a couple of groups where, like consulting groups, where I'll bring them on and help me build this back end model, how I can build my landing pages and find, do some prospecting and find my avatar, etc. I fumbled away by myself for a little while, and I just started wasting too much time. And I was like, I need to do this. So I invested some money, and now it's like I'm even more working it out, where I have currently a really good connection to a lot of expats and executives in Korea. So it's very organic. Everyone I've ever got is through referrals, because I've never advertised ever, because I didn't want to do, that wasn't my job actually. That was kind of a hobbyist job. So now I'm changing the tune. A lot of my content I'm creating is directed towards that sort of style of training and diet and nutrition, and everything in their world that I know is challenging. So I've now built my content map is all related to this sort of side of things. And I'll also bring in my current team. So I have 6 regular people that I coach at the moment. I'm going to bring them on board. We'll do a think tank. I want to know exactly what they want, what they need, what they're willing to pay, what are their biggest problems. And, from me as a coach for next year, what would it take for me to get you to sign up for me as a remote coach from anywhere in the world, wherever you are and wherever I am. So that's happening in the next couple of weeks, which I've never really done that before as well. The whole Ask campaigns, excuse my accent, the whole ask campaign, maybe it's easier to understand, but I really enjoy that whole model. Like it's like selling a gym membership. If someone comes into the gym, if I just straight away tell you what you need, I could be completely wrong, right? Even though we know we have what you need, but just saying, what is it you're after? What are your problems right now, and how can I help you? And just listening, which means then my content and my business and my model can be built around exactly what they've told me, and I can be on point and know exactly what I'm dealing with. So I'm really enjoying that phase of it, and it's happening as we speak.
Yeah, it's so smart, man. And it's like when you look at marketing, you look at business development, it starts pretty simply. It is just talking to your current clients, or finding people who you want to be your clients and asking them to simply just have a coffee or have a conversation and just dig in, because, man, it's not, you get so many great answers, you get so much great insight, because we get stuck in our own thing with trainers, right? Where we just love our own cooking, right? We just think that we got it all figured out. We know exactly what people want, but we don't always. We have our own biases. We have our own lenses that we look through. So that's really cool. I'm curious too, how do you train business executives differently than you would somebody off the street, right? Somebody who would come.
Yeah. So like I was sort of saying, the direction is funny, because often the programming and the whole, that sort of side of things is not that much different to what it would be for everyone else, right? But my whole, from doing surveys and my, market research and talking to my guys as much as I have, the biggest pain points are always, convenience and versatility, right? Like, 'cause they don't know where they're going to be. So in terms of their training, they could be at a hotel, they could be at an airport, they could be at home, they could be anywhere, right? Also, accountability. Those were the 2 main things. Accountability is the biggest one they want, right? Because, again, they're usually the guys that make all the decisions. They're the ones who have to run the show all the time. They're always on. And they actually enjoy the fact that I'm on the phone messaging them with their workout and telling them what they need to do, and send me some photos of your lunch today. They actually really enjoy not having to be the brains behind all that for this part of it. They're just doing what they're told. We all need coaches, right? I have a coach, and everyone needs a coach. And it's great to have that accountability to be like, oh man, I've got a call with Eric in a couple of weeks, and if I'm not ready for that call, man, I've got to get to work. I get to work. So it's mainly their whole accountability side of it and understanding their lifestyle. Most of them are family men as well, which is a very strong section of my world, where I want to make sure I'm as balanced as possible. I'm not, perfect balance is impossible, but I want to make sure that I can offer really good advice and work with them on that as well, as much as possible. Most of them are men, so I suppose you probably gather that from the conference. I have one lady I've coached for a long time, and currently she's remote, but most are men, but just understanding their world, understanding what they need, and when they're traveling for 5 weeks, they can still work out, and they still must record their scores at the end of every day. And I must see that so I can understand they're doing it.
Cool. That's a really cool system. So where do you see yourself in a year? Where do you see this going? Are you just, do you have any numbers or targets? I'm sure you do. If you're working with business coaches, you must have some targets. Where do you want to be?
Well, in my first year, I want to be able to bring in at least 200 grand for the year from online revenue only. And then that will allow me to move into an environment that I want to live in. Whether right now it's New Zealand, a beautiful area of New Zealand. I want my kids to go to school there. I just want to have a very beautiful area to create great content and continue building that online business, but then focusing on other passion projects that I really enjoy that may be more volunteer side of things, whether it's working with teenage athletes that are not getting as much support as they need. I'm very into big mentor programs for, again, athletes moving into professional era, or, this kind of guidance thing. I'm kind of old. I'm an old head in the game now, right? I've done it all. I've failed lots and I've made mistakes and I know the directions to go to. So with New Zealand Rugby now, there are a lot of great opportunities to work with athletes like I was, when I was 20 years old, and there was no one for me. I didn't have a father around either. So I had no one to sort of talk to and get that perspective or advice. Like, that's a stupid idea. Why don't you think about this? Or are you sure that's what you want to do? No one. So I just sort of bounced around doing what I thought was right. And it was many times it wasn't such. So, so I'm going to build the online business up a lot and then get more face-to-face where I can add really a lot of value on the face-to-face stuff. I don't want to be paid just to say 5 more reps, let's go. I want to make sure that the value is really, really high value work in face-to-face.
Awesome. Yeah, you're one of, what I call, I haven't even named it yet, but there's this certain generation of coaches that are now evolving into digital coaching and online presence and really pumping a lot of time in it, like Luke Kayam. So it's really cool, man. I love what you're doing, and we're, I'm hoping you'll inspire some people to look at things a little bit differently within their fitness practice. So, people want to find you if they want to ask you questions. Where do they go?
You can find me on Instagram at Cody Hunter Coaching, and the same for Facebook, Cody Hunter Coaching. That's where you'll find me, and I'm always up for conversations and calls and questions. I love it. It's one of my most favorite things about the business.
Yeah. I like it too. Cool. Well, Cody, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate your time. This is really insightful, and I'd like to check in with you maybe in about a year and see where things are at. Maybe get you back on the show. What do you think?
That'd be amazing. Thanks, Eric. Take care.
Bye, brother. Hey, fitness fans. Don't leave yet. This is Eric Malzone, your host, and I have an extremely special offer just for you. If you go to fitnessmarketingalliance.com/assessment, you can claim your complimentary digital marketing audit. Are you a modern fitness professional? Do you have some sort of online presence? Do you have a sneaking suspicion that your website is not performing optimally and therefore costing you money? Well, this is how you start to find out all the details. Just like fitness, you need to start with an honest and objective assessment. So go to fitnessmarketingalliance.com/assessment, fill out the form, and we will have it to you within 72 hours. It will cover your overall site performance, rank from 0 to 100, how you rank for your chosen keywords, so that's search engine optimization, your website traffic history over the last 6 months, so the ebbs and flows and what worked, what didn't, your website speed, which is highly relevant for people coming to your website and then bouncing off because it's working too slow, your social media presence, competitive analysis, and much, much more. So this is just the tip of the iceberg, but this is the starting point for building your online business. So please take advantage of it. We're offering it because we feel it's deeply important to you and the industry overall. And you can claim it by going to fitnessmarketingalliance.com/assessment. Do it today. Do it right now. Don't hesitate. This offer won't last forever. So thank you for listening. Greatly appreciate it. If you ever need to reach me, hit me up, Eric at fitnessmarketingalliance.com. And I'll be talking to you very, very soon.